My name is Samantha Hart, and I'm 18 years old. People think being a twin must mean having a built-in best friend, someone who understands you completely, who walks through life in perfect sync. But in my family, being a twin just meant living in someone else's shadow. My sister Mia was the sun-radiant, admired, effortlessly magnetic, and me, I was just the dim light they forgot to turn off. Growing up in the Hart household meant everything looked perfect from the outside, a spotless lawn, curated smiles, matching outfits at Christmas. My mom, Linda, was a real estate agent who could sell a dream she didn't even believe in. My dad, Robert, ran his own accounting firm and liked to say, numbers never lie. The irony our family did all the time. When we were kids, it wasn't obvious. I thought love was supposed to come in unequal doses, maybe. Mom smiled more at Mia because she was tired. Maybe Dad bought her new shoes because mine still fit. But as I got older, those excuses started to rot. I remember one Christmas vividly. Mia unwrapped a pink Barbie dream house, the kind with real working lights and an elevator. My gift was a generic doll that smelled faintly of plastic and glue. I smiled anyway. Dad took a picture, Mia beaming center frame, me blurred on the edge. Even now I can still hear the camera click. Samantha, don't pout. Mom said, her voice syrupy but cold. You don't want to ruin the photo, do you? That was the thing about my family, we were always performing. And I was always cast as the extra. At school, things were different. There, I could breathe. I learned that numbers and books didn't judge you. They didn't compare you to someone prettier or louder. I loved that about them. I buried myself in studying math competitions, honor classes, science fairs. For a while, I believed that if I worked hard enough, my parents might finally see me. But they didn't. Mom's face lit up whenever Mia walked into a room. She'd gush over Mia's new hairstyle, ask about her friends, her day, her next big thing. And when I tried to speak even something as small as I aced my exam, her gaze would wander, her smile fading like a candle in the wind. I used to think maybe I wasn't interesting enough. Maybe love was something you had to earn with sparkle and laughter and good timing. But later I realized I could have cured cancer, and it still wouldn't have been enough. Mia, on the other hand, was everyone's darling. The golden twin, the one who could spill juice on the rug and still get comforted while I'd be scolded for not helping her fast enough. It was subtle at first, the difference in tone, in effort, in affection. But one night when I was 12, the illusion shattered completely. I couldn't sleep. The air felt heavy, thick with that strange silence that only happens when something's wrong. I went downstairs to grab a glass of water. That's when I heard them. Mom and Dad, talking in the living room, their voices low but sharp. Sometimes I think it would have been easier if we didn't have twins, Dad said. I froze. The glass in my hand trembled. Mom sighed. Mia's special Robert. She's going to do great things. Samantha, well, she's fine. She's not difficult, at least. Fine, not difficult. I felt my chest cave in. My tears fell before I even realized I was crying. I remember gripping the edge of the counter, willing myself not to make a sound. The light from the hallway cast their silhouettes across the wall, two parents discussing which child was worth more. I wanted to hate them right then, but mostly I hated myself for hoping they'd change. When I crept back upstairs, my reflection in the mirror startled me. I looked like a ghost haunting her own life, and maybe that's what I'd become. That night, something inside me hardened. I stopped chasing their approval. I stopped waiting for affection that would never come. If they wouldn't see me, I'd make the world see me. Still, even now, part of me wonders, was I born invisible, or did they make me that way? And maybe the cruelest part I didn't realize back then, that they hadn't even started breaking me yet. Because the day would come soon when their favoritism wouldn't just bruise me. It would destroy everything I thought I knew about family. By the time senior year rolled around, I had built my entire identity around one thing: achievement. If I couldn't be the daughter they loved, I'd be the one they couldn't ignore. Late nights blurred into early mornings, my desk littered with coffee cups and highlighters. I lived for the moments teachers praised me for those gold-embossed certificates that whispered you matter. Mia, meanwhile, floated through life like a movie star who never read her own script. She played volleyball, went to parties, and somehow managed to stay on everyone's good side, especially my parents. One evening during dinner, I tried to share some good news. I made the shortlist for the Columbia Scholarship, I said, voice trembling slightly from excitement. Mom didn't even look up from her phone. That's nice, honey. Mia, did you text Coach about your uniform size? The air went still. Forks clinked. My heart sank. Mia grinned. Already did. He said I'll probably be team captain next season. Dad chuckled proudly. That's my girl. My girl. The phrase echoed in my head like static. I stared at my plate of cold pasta and forced a smile. Congrats. But inside, I was screaming. At school, I hid behind confidence. I led group projects, mentored younger students, joined the academic decathlon. Yet every time I achieved something new, my parents acted like it was background noise. When I won the district science fair, Mom posted nothing about it. But when Mia made it to regional volleyball, just regionals, she uploaded a whole slideshow, Our Proud Star. That night, I locked myself in my room and scrolled through their posts. Not one mention of me, not one. I wanted to tell myself it didn't matter. But when you've been invisible your whole life, silence feels like a punishment. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for, the Columbia acceptance letter. It arrived on a Thursday. I remember because it was raining, and I ran home clutching the envelope so tightly the paper warped. I stood in the doorway, dripping wet, holding the future in my hands. "Mom, Dad, look," I said, voice breathless. "Columbia. Full acceptance." They were at the dining table surrounded by travel brochures, glossy images of beaches and luau's. Mom didn't glance up. "Not now, Samantha. We're busy." "Busy?" I laughed nervously. "With what?" Mia sprawled on the couch, smirked. "Planning Hawaii." I blinked. "Wait, we're going to Hawaii?" Mom looked annoyed. "It's a trip for Mia, before she starts college. A little family celebration." "Family celebration," I repeated, my voice cracking. "As in all of us." Dad finally looked up, but only long enough to say, "You'll have the house to yourself. Think of it as quiet time." It took a full minute for the words to sink in. They were leaving me behind. Again. I wanted to shout, to demand an explanation, but my throat closed. I just nodded and walked upstairs before they could see my tears. Later that night, I overheard them laughing in the kitchen, talking about snorkeling hotel upgrades, sunset dinners. "Mia deserves this," Mom said. "She's worked so hard," Dad replied. Hard. That word stabbed like glass. I stared at my acceptance letter on the desk. I should have felt proud. Instead, I felt like a ghost, celebrating alone. The next day, I went to see the school counselor, hoping for comfort. She listened patiently, nodding in all the right places. "You should be proud of yourself," she said kindly. "You've achieved so much despite the lack of support." It felt nice until it didn't, because that evening, Mom stormed into my room, her face twisted in anger. "What did you tell your counselor?" she snapped. "What?" She called me, said, "You're painting us as bad parents." Do you have any idea how embarrassing that is? I didn't lie, I said quietly. I just told her you're taking Mia to Hawaii and leaving me here. Her eyes flared. "Ungrateful. We've given you everything, and you still find reasons to complain. Always jealous of your sister." Jealous. Another word they loved, using a lazy label to erase how I felt. After she stormed out, I sat on my bed and realized something bitterly true. No matter what I achieved, I'd never be seen. The morning of their trip came like a storm I couldn't stop. Suitcases lined the hallway. Mom wore her designer sunglasses. Dad hummed like it was Christmas morning. Mia paused on her way out, flashing me a smile that wasn't a smile at all. "Don't worry, sis. I'll send you pictures," she said sweetly. "You can live vicariously through me." Mom added, "Take care of the house," before walking out. Dad gave me a distracted wave, and then they were gone. The silence that followed was suffocating. No laughter, no footsteps, just me and the hum of the refrigerator. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, and whispered to no one, "I don't want to live like this anymore." For years, I'd told myself I could earn their love, that if I achieved enough, I'd finally be worthy. But love isn't something you earn. It's something you either have or you don't. And my family had made it clear I didn't. That's when I remembered something I'd buried long ago, a name my mother once spat out like a curse. Uncle Jack. She'd called him a bad influence, an embarrassment, someone to stay away from. But maybe that was exactly why I needed to find him. 2 hours after they left for Hawaii, I was still sitting in that silent house, staring at the wall like it owed me answers. Every clock tick sounded louder than the last. Somewhere outside, a neighbor's dog barked. Inside, everything felt hollow. That's when I opened my laptop. My hands trembled a little as I typed his name, Jack Hart. My mom's estranged brother. The family ghost. It didn't take long to find him. A local listing popped up, Jack Hart Independent Contractor, an address barely 20 minutes away. I stared at it for a while. Rationally, I knew it was a bad idea. Mom would probably lose her mind if she knew I even said his name out loud. But then I thought, what else am I going to do? Sit here and keep being invisible. By the time the sun dipped low, I was already in my car. His neighborhood looked nothing like ours. The lawns weren't manicured, the driveways cracked paint peeling off old porches, but somehow it felt more honest than our picture-perfect suburb. Jack's house was small, a single-story place, surrounded by wild ivy and wind chimes that tinkled in the breeze. I hesitated before knocking. The door opened after a few seconds. He looked older than I'd imagined. Silver streaks in his hair, weathered eyes, a flannel shirt rolled to his elbows. His gaze flicked from my nervous face to the keys in my hand. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice gravelly but not unkind. I'm Samantha," I said softly. "Linda's daughter." His eyebrows shot up. "Linda's daughter." Then after a beat, his expression softened. "Well, I'll be damned. Come on in, kid." The inside of his house was cluttered but warm tools, piled near the counter, a half-finished painting on the table. It smelled like coffee and cedar. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a worn chair. "Coffee." "Sure." He poured 2 mugs, sliding one toward me. I wrapped my hands around it, letting the warmth ground me. So he said, leaning back, "What brings you here? I doubt your mom sent you." I laughed weakly. "Definitely not. She probably wouldn't be thrilled to know I'm here." Linda's rarely thrilled about anything that isn't her reflection. That made me snort a sound I hadn't made in months. He smiled, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel like an intruder in my own life. "It's complicated," I said finally. "They all went on vacation without me. And I guess I just needed to talk to someone who might understand." His expression darkened. "So she's still playing favorites, huh?" "Since birth," I said bitterly. He sighed, rubbing his jaw. "I'm sorry, kid. You didn't deserve that." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The wind rattled the chimes outside. "Your mom and I," he said eventually, "we haven't talked in years. She made her choices, image over honesty, control over connection. I called her out once, and that was enough for her to cut me off." I frowned. "What happened?" He hesitated, then gave a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Let's just say your mom likes her secrets tidy." And I wasn't tidy. That answer only raised more questions, but I didn't push. Not yet. We talked for hours. I told him about school, Columbia, the Hawaii trip, the constant comparisons. He listened, really listened, without interrupting or telling me to be grateful. Every time I paused, he'd nod as if each sentence mattered. When I finally stopped talking, he leaned back thoughtful. "You remind me of myself when I was your age, trying too damn hard to be seen by people who've already decided not to look." I smiled weakly. "Yeah, feels like screaming into a void sometimes." "Here's the thing, Samantha." He tapped his mug against the table. "Family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who shares your battles. And from what I hear, you've been fighting alone for a long time." The words hit harder than I expected. My throat tightened. Before I could say anything, he added, "You're welcome here any time. My door doesn't close on the people your mom forgets." That night, I left his house with something I hadn't felt in years, lightness. When I drove back home, the house looked even emptier than before. The silence no longer scared me. It just confirmed what I already knew. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. A call from Jack. "Hey, you busy?" "Not really." "Good. Come by the house. I've got something to show you." I didn't ask what, I just went. When I arrived, he was standing in the driveway, grinning like a kid who couldn't wait to show off a surprise. He motioned for me to follow him around the side of the house, and there, gleaming in the late afternoon sun, was a brand new BMW 3 Series, silver, spotless, and completely out of place in front of his old pickup truck. My jaw dropped. "Wait, what is this?" He dangled the keys with a grin. "It's yours." I blinked, sure I'd misheard. "What? You earned it," he said simply. "You worked your ass off while they treated you like wallpaper. Someone needed to remind you you're worth something." I shook my head. "Jack, I can't accept this. It's too much." "Sure you can." He pressed the keys into my hand. "Drive it to Columbia. Start your new life right." The metal was cold in my palm. My voice broke. "Why would you do this for me?" He gave a small, sad smile. "Because I see you, Samantha, and because your mom never did." I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I hugged him awkwardly at first, then tightly. He patted my shoulder. "You don't owe me anything, kid. Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't let them convince you you're small. They only shrink what they fear." That night I drove home in the BMW, the engine humming beneath me like freedom itself. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. I felt unstoppable. But that feeling wouldn't last, because the moment my family returned from Hawaii, the real storm would begin. They came back on a Sunday morning, suntanned and smiling, luggage piled high in the driveway. From the living room window, I watched them pull in, 3 silhouettes against the bright morning sun, laughing like nothing in the world could touch them. Then Mom stopped. Her laughter cut off mid-sound. She'd seen the BMW. I didn't move right away. I just sat there, heart pounding, waiting for the explosion. It came faster than I expected. Mom's voice sliced through the air. What the hell is this? I stood, walked outside, calm, too calm. The car gleamed behind me like defiance made of steel. Welcome home, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Mom pointed a manicured finger at the BMW. Whose car is that? Mine, I said. For a second, the silence was almost funny. Mia's mouth fell open, Dad frowned, and Mom's face turned an angry shade of red. Don't lie to me, she snapped. You can't afford that. I didn't buy it, I said. Uncle Jack gave it to me. Her expression twisted. You went to Jack? Yes. Her jaw clenched. After everything I've told you about him, you had no rights. Funny, I interrupted. You didn't seem worried about rights when you went to Hawaii without me. Mia rolled her eyes. Oh my God, are we still on that? Yes, we are, I said sharper now. Because that's what families do, right? They exclude the boring twin and call it a celebration. Dad stepped forward, voice low and stern. Enough. You will not disrespect your mother. I'm not, I said. I'm just finally answering back. Mom took a deep breath, smoothing her hair like she was trying to pull herself together. You need to return the car. Jack has always been unstable. He's using you to get back at me. He's the only one who's ever treated me like a person. Her voice rose. Don't be dramatic, Samantha. But I didn't flinch. You said that same thing when you left me behind. Dad's tone hardened. You are not keeping that car. Mia needs transportation for college. My stomach turned cold. Excuse me? You'll be living in dorms, Mom said, like it was perfectly logical. You won't need a car, but she will. It makes sense. I actually laughed a short, disbelieving sound. Let me get this straight. You went on a luxury trip without me, ignored my Columbia acceptance. And now you want to take the one good thing that finally happened to me. Mia crossed her arms, smirking. Don't be selfish, Samantha. You know I'd take better care of it. I stared at her, then at Mom and Dad. The three of them looked like they'd already decided for me, as if my opinion were an afterthought again. I felt something inside me snap. No, I said quietly. Mom blinked. What did you say? I said no. You can't have it. Dad's face darkened. If you don't hand over those keys, you can find somewhere else to live. For a second, the words hung there like smoke. Then I smiled, small but steady. Perfect timing, I said, and walked toward the trunk. When I lifted it, their expressions froze. Inside were 2 suitcases, a duffel bag, and a stack of boxes labeled dorm. I already packed, I said softly. Guess we're both getting what we want. Mom's mouth opened, then shut. Mia's smirk faltered. You're leaving, Mom demanded. I was planning on it anyway, I said. This house stopped feeling like home a long time ago. Dad's voice shook with anger. Don't you dare walk out like this. I turned, keys in hand. You walked out first. You just didn't notice. Then, for the first time in my life, I saw fear in my mother's eyes. Not of losing control, but of being seen for who she really was. I climbed into the car, started the engine, and rolled down the window. Don't worry, I said, echoing Mia's words from before. I'll send you pictures, so you can live vicariously through me for once. Then I drove off. The world outside looked different through the windshield, sharper, wider, alive. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from release. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The house behind me had never been mine to begin with. When I reached Jack's, he was sitting on the porch, a beer in one hand, and that same knowing grin on his face. Figured I'd see you today, he said, standing as I parked. I got out, exhaling shakily. You were right. She freaked out. Linda always does. She said I had to give the car to Mia, and when I refused, Dad told me to leave. Jack nodded slowly, like none of it surprised him. So you did. I smiled faintly. Yeah, I guess I did. He motioned towards the door. Come on, I've got a spare room. It's not much, but it's yours. Inside, the place smelled like coffee and motor oil, familiar now. He showed me the small guest room, plain bed, small desk, peeling wallpaper. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe. That night, we ate dinner together, grilled cheese and tomato soup. Simple, quiet. For once, the silence didn't hurt. You know, Jack said as we ate, your mom used to be different. Before the money, before the obsession with appearances, something changed her. I looked up. What do you mean? He hesitated, eyes shadowed. Some truths do more damage than good, kid. When the time's right, you'll know. I wanted to press, but his tone warned me not to. Instead, I whispered, thank you for everything. He smiled. You don't owe me thanks. Just promise me you'll never crawl back to people who made you small. That night, as I lay in bed, I could still hear his words echoing. For the first time in years, I fell asleep without feeling invisible. But even peace can't last forever. And soon I'd learn that some ghosts don't stay buried, especially in my family. The next few weeks at Jack's felt like stepping into someone else's life, one where laughter didn't have to sound polite and silence didn't feel like punishment. Jack wasn't rich or polished like my parents, but everything about his world felt real. He'd whistle while frying eggs, curse at sports on TV, and always leave the front door unlocked because, as he said, people who live honest don't hide behind locks. I helped him with small things, groceries, cleaning up his workshop, and in return, he taught me how to use a power drill and how to fix a leaky faucet. It wasn't glamorous, but it was freedom. Every night, we'd eat dinner together, usually on the porch, the sound of cicadas humming through the warm air. For the first time, I felt like someone saw me, really saw me. Feels good, doesn't it? Jack said one evening, handing me a soda. What does? Breathing without permission. I smiled faintly. Yeah, it does. He studied me for a second, then said, "You've got fire in you, kid. Don't let them smother it again." I didn't tell him, but I'd already blocked Mom, Dad, and Mia on everything. No calls, no text, no guilt. At least that's what I told myself. But peace is fragile, especially when your family feeds on control. A few days later, I woke to a dozen notifications from old classmates. Mia had posted something. A photo of my old bedroom stripped bare. The caption, "Out with the old, in with the new." Some people can't handle the truth. The comments were worse. Did Samantha really move out? She always was dramatic. Poor Mia having to deal with that. My stomach twisted. The girl who'd been my shadow was now painting me as the villain. Jack found me staring at my phone. Trouble. Mia, I muttered. She's turning people against me. He shrugged. Let her. People who believe lies aren't worth keeping. I wanted to agree, but it still hurt. The next few days were quiet again. I started preparing for Columbia, buying notebooks, filling out housing forms, slowly piecing together what my future might look like. Then one afternoon, while working on my laptop, I got a text from an unknown number. "Mom, come outside. We need to talk." My chest went tight. I stepped out onto the porch, and there she was, standing next to her car, like a storm disguised as a woman. Her sunglasses reflected everything but emotion. "Mom," I said carefully, "what are you doing here?" "Don't use that tone with me," she snapped. "Get in the car. We're going home." I laughed. "No, we're not." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "This is ridiculous, Samantha. You're making a fool of yourself. Running away living with that man. That man is your brother." "He's dangerous," she hissed. "You have no idea what he's capable of." I crossed my arms. "Then maybe you should tell me." Her eyes flickered. "I don't owe you an explanation." "No, but you owe me the truth," I said quietly. "For once in your life, just tell me what this is really about." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This is about you embarrassing our family. People are talking, Samantha. Do you know what that does to me?" "Wow," I said softly. "You really mean to you, don't you? Not us. Never us." "Don't twist my words." "I don't have to," I said. "They twist themselves." Her jaw tightened, but I kept going. "You didn't come here because you care. You came here because you're losing control." For a split second, I thought she might hit me. Instead, she turned away, gripping the car door like she needed something to hold on to. "You've changed," she said finally, "and not for the better." I smiled faintly. "No, Mom. I've just stopped pretending." She looked back at me, eyes full of a strange mix of anger and maybe fear. Then she got in her car and drove off, tires crunching over gravel until the sound faded completely. That night, I told Jack everything. He listened quietly, stirring sugar into his coffee even though it was already sweet enough. "She said you're dangerous," I told him. He smirked. "Wouldn't be the first time." "What does that mean?" "Your mom doesn't like people who see her for what she is," he said simply. "She spends her whole life building perfect illusions. I just broke one." I frowned. "What illusion?" He hesitated. "Let's not open that box right now. You've got college to worry about." "Jack!" Later, he said firmly, "When you're ready." A few days passed before I got the next surprise, this time a call from Jack while I was packing boxes. "Guess who dropped by today?" he said, amusement in his tone. "Mom." "Bingo. Wanted to talk about my will." My heart sank. "She's worried you'll leave something to me." She didn't say it outright, but yeah, that's the game. "What did you tell her?" "I told her to mind her own business. Then I told her if she doesn't stop meddling, I might just leave everything to you out of spite." I couldn't help but laugh. "You didn't." "Oh, I did. You should have seen her face." But behind the laughter, I heard something else, a note of warning. "She's not going to let this go, Samantha," he said quietly. "You shook her world, and she's not the type to forgive that." "Let her be angry," I said, forcing confidence I didn't feel. "She's not my problem anymore." Jack didn't respond right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Maybe. But you are hers, and that's what scares her the most." Moving day came faster than I expected. We loaded my boxes into the BMW. The sun was rising, painting everything gold. Jack patted the hood. You're driving to a new life, kid. Don't look in the rear view too long. I smiled, even though my chest felt heavy. I'll call you when I get there. You better. When I reached Columbia, the campus was everything I dreamed: towering stone buildings, green lawns, students laughing in languages I didn't even understand. I carried my things to the dorm, heart racing. For the first time, I belonged somewhere, or at least I wanted to believe I did. Because even as I unpacked my books and pinned photos to the wall, I couldn't shake one thought. If Mom had secrets big enough to cut her own brother out of her life, what else had she hidden? And why did I feel like I was about to find out? The first few weeks at Columbia felt like freedom crisp air. New faces, lectures, that lit something inside me. I'd walk across campus with a coffee in hand and think, this is mine, my life, my beginning. But some nights when the noise died down and I was alone in my dorm, I'd feel that old ache, that echo of home I'd tried to erase. Jack called often. Sometimes we'd talk for an hour, sometimes just a few minutes. He'd ask about my classes, my roommate, the food. Every time I heard his voice, I felt anchored. Until the day he didn't pick up. I tried again the next morning. Still nothing. 3 days passed. Then came a call from an unknown number. Is this Samantha Hart? A woman asked. I'm calling from Memorial Hospital. Your Uncle Jack Hart listed you as his emergency contact. My body went cold. By the time I got there, it was late evening. The hospital smelled like bleach and fear. A nurse led me to his room. Jack was lying there, pale, a bandage across his forehead. Car accident, the nurse explained. He'll be fine, but he needs rest. When she left, I sat beside him, my heart pounding. He opened his eyes slowly and gave a crooked smile. You came. Of course I came, I said, squeezing his hand. Didn't want to worry you, he muttered. Guess I'm not as invincible as I thought. I managed a weak laugh. You scared me. He glanced toward the window, then back at me. Your mom came to see me, you know, right before it happened. My heart jumped. What? Yeah. She showed up again, said she wanted to make peace. His tone was flat heavy. We argued. She left angry. I drove off too fast. Stupid mistake. I felt the blood drain from my face. Do you think she... He shook his head. No, don't go there. But she said something you should know. He struggled to sit up. I reached to help him, but he waved me off. His eyes were tired but sharp. Samantha, he said slowly. You ever wonder why your mom hates me so much? All the time, I whispered. It's because I know what she did. A chill crept up my spine. What do you mean? He took a deep breath. When you and Mia were born, it wasn't supposed to be twins. My stomach nodded. What? Your parents went through IVF. There was only one viable embryo, but something went wrong or right, depending on how you see it. 2 girls, 1 embryo split, identical twins. But your mom, she panicked. She wasn't supposed to have 2. She told everyone later that you were the quiet one, the mistake. She said it to me once, after too much wine, that she only wanted Mia. I stared at him frozen. That's insane. Maybe, but it explains a lot, doesn't it? The words hit like a punch. All the years of being ignored, dismissed, erased. Maybe they weren't accidents. Maybe I'd been branded unwanted before I even breathed. Jack's voice softened. She's lived with guilt ever since, but instead of facing it, she punished the reminder you. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to stop the tears. Why didn't you tell me before? Because I thought she'd change, he said quietly. But she's still trapped in her own mirror, the one where she only sees what she wants. The monitor beeped softly. Outside, the city lights flickered against the glass. When I finally looked up, Jack's eyes were closing. Get some rest, I said gently. He nodded weakly. Promise me something, Samantha. Anything. Don't let her guilt become your identity. That night I couldn't sleep. I wandered the hospital halls, mind spinning. I wasn't angry, not anymore. Just hollow. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I called Mom. When she answered, her tone was wary. Samantha, I'm at the hospital, I said. Jack told me everything. Silence, then a sharp inhale. He shouldn't have. He said you only wanted 1 baby. Her breath caught. That's not true, she said too quickly. He's lying. Maybe I said quietly. But it fits, doesn't it? Samantha, you don't understand. I understand enough. You spent my whole life pretending I didn't exist. Maybe it's because I wasn't supposed to. But here I am. Her voice broke. I tried to love you. I didn't know how. I closed my eyes. That's the first honest thing you've ever said to me. There was a long silence. Then she whispered, What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. For the first time, nothing. And I hung up. Jack recovered over the next few weeks. I visited whenever I could, bringing him coffee and teasing him about his hospital socks. We didn't talk about my mother again. We didn't have to. When I finally returned to campus, fall had started to creep in. The leaves burned orange against the sky. I walked past the library window and caught my reflection in the glass, tired but alive. For a long time, I'd been chasing recognition, begging to be seen. But now, for the first time, I didn't need anyone's gaze to define me. Mom's secrets, Dad's silence, Mia's envy, they weren't my story anymore. I was my own. As I stood there, the wind tugging at my hair, I smiled faintly. For the first time, I wasn't my mother's daughter or my sister's shadow. I was just me, and that was enough.